Hi guys, this week we are doing something a little different. Instead of a work of art, we are doing more of an exercise. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Marks at Willie Brown Elementary, also known as the Young Scholars Academy, because this is actually a lesson that she did first. And her lesson, watching her video, helped me do this lesson so much because I was just kind of stuck. I didn't really know where to start, and she helped me tremendously. I'm even going to put a link to her video in the description of mine because her video is so good. She's so good at describing things and explaining things. So I definitely want to give a shout out to her because so much of mine comes from hers. The only reason I still made one is because there were a couple of little things I wanted to add, like how to do letters and just some little things that came up with my students up here at Elizabeth Smith. But other than that, her video is, phenomenal. So you're really only going to need a pencil and paper. I Sharpied this one just so you can see it on camera really well. But when you do yours, it's really going to look more like this because we're just going to use pencil and paper. And like I said before, instead of a work of art, it's more of an exercise. I want you to learn how to turn a two-dimensional shape into a three-dimensional form and how to do it the correct way, not by winging it. Okay, so let's get our stuff together and let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to fold our paper so we have 8 spots to put our shapes and forms. So you can see how I have 8 little spots, and that'll just help you know how much space you have to work in so you don't run out of space. So first, notice I have my paper on the side where it's short and chubby. I'm going to fold it in half from side to side. Like a nice crease. Okay. Keeping it folded, I'm going to fold it in half again. Nice crease, both directions. Okay. And then notice I've got it going up and down where it's a tall rectangle. And I'm going to fold it in half again, going side to side, where now it's a very tall, skinny rectangle. And you may have to use a little bit of force to show it his boss. Very tall, skinny rectangle, and then I can unfold it, flatten it out, and now I have 8 well-defined spaces for my shapes and my forms. So first, I'm going to start out in this top left box, and we are going to turn a square into a cube. So as you know, the shape is the square, so I'm going to sketch out a square. Now notice I'm not using a ruler for this because I don't want to be perfect. What I want you to take away from this is understanding how this works, not necessarily making something perfect. You're not going to frame this and hang it up and all that stuff. I just want you to understand how to turn a shape into a form. If you can get that concept, then you're good to go. So, got a square, looking a little rectangle-ish, so I'm just going to shave the side off a bit there. I'm going to make an arrow. That's where the transformation is going to happen. Alright, so now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw 2 squares. So I printed out a couple of squares. I got this idea from my friend Miss Marks. So shout out to Miss Marks for her fantastic idea. You're going to draw 1 square that's kind of up and to the left, and you're going to make a second square that'll be kind of down and to the right. Okay, just kind of clumsy here. Alright, so just kind of envision yourself drawing 2 squares similar to that. Alright, so let me show you now. So right here, I'm going to draw 1 square. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not using a ruler or anything. So there's 1 square up and to the left, and then I'm going to draw a second square down and to the right. Okay? Now you can hit pause and do the same thing. Don't two squares, very similar to that. Notice how it even kind of frames and makes a little rectangle here. Alright, so now I'm going to connect the corners with a straight line. I'm going to connect the corners here, 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 and here. And now I have a cube. Easy peasy. Alright? And keep in mind, it's like you have a glass box, so you're seeing through all of it. But as you become more and more comfortable with it, it doesn't have to be a transparent box. You could, let me draw another one right next to it. So again, I'm going to draw two squares. I'm going to have to make it a little smaller so I can fit it. Alright, connect the corners. But it doesn't have to be transparent. I could erase where you see through it. Like I could erase here. And here. And here. And it'll still look three-dimensional, but then I could color it in and everything. So you can play around with it and do things like that. So keep that in mind. Alright? Now, next, we're going to do a rectangular prism. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. And again, don't obsess over making it perfect. Alright. And of course, make a little arrow. Now, as always, if I'm going too fast, just hit pause. Hit pause, that'll stop me. You can catch up with me, and then you can hit play again. Alright, and then, again, using this marks I did, I'm going to draw one rectangle, and then I'm going to draw a second rectangle down and to the right. I'm just too clumsy, I'm like all thumbs. Alright, so it'll be very similar to that. Okay, so just try to kind of vision that. Very similar to what we did with the cube there. So I'm going to draw one rectangle up and to the left. Alright. Then I'm going to draw another rectangle down and to the right. Okay. Then I'm going to connect. And again, if you need more time, just hit pause to stop me. And then I'm going to connect the corners with a straight line. And you have a rectangular prism. So that is number 2. Okay, so next we're going to do a triangular prism. So I'm going to draw a triangle. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. If I wanted it to be perfect, I'd have my ruler out and everything. Certainly not perfect. Got my triangle, got my arrow. Alright, same concept. I'm going to have a triangle, triangle. So I got a triangle up and to the left. As always, feel free to pause me. Going too fast. And I'll have a triangle down and to the right. Now you're going to want to spread these triangles out a little more than we did with the rectangle and the square. Because if the triangles overlap too much, it kind of covers each other up too much and you can't see it very well. Alright, and then, again, hit pause if you need to. And connect the corners. And boom! Triangular prism. Alright, now next we're going to do a pyramid. Now a pyramid works different than a triangular prism, because a triangular prism and a pyramid are two completely different things. They both involve triangles, but they're different. So first I am going to draw a triangle. Alright, and I'm going to draw an arrow. Okay, but for the pyramid it's different, and if you did the Egyptian picture with me where we did the pyramids and the barrage and all that, you may remember this a little bit. But we're going to start off like we're drawing a wide triangle. So I'm going to draw the two lines, and again make it kind of wide so you have plenty of room, and then make it like you forgot to draw the bottom. Okay. Then I'm going to go up to the apex, and I'm going to bring a straight line that comes down, but it's going to be a little longer than these two. It doesn't have to be a ton longer, but just a little bit. Then I'm going to draw a straight line connecting these two, and a straight line connecting these two. Now, if you want it to be opaque or not see-through, you could just leave it like this if you want. If you want it to be transparent like we've been doing with the other ones, you would draw a line here and a line here, because the base of a pyramid is a square. Right here, I would have a line coming up. And there's your pyramid. So there, you should be able to very clearly see. On a triangular prism, you have two triangles on the ends, and then you have three rectangles. On a pyramid, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles and a square on the bottom. So they are different. Okay, now we're going to talk about a cone, and we're up here. Now, a cone is different. A lot of people, when you look at a cone, like if you look at my example here, you look at a cone and naturally you think triangle, okay? And that's, of course, very natural. But it's technically really not a triangle. It's closer to like a rainbow shape and a circle. And even that is not really exact. I was playing around with it this weekend. I was, printing and cutting out shapes, and even that wasn't exact. I got close, but it wasn't exact. But like I have this little kind of rainbow shape here, and I have a circle. But if I take this little rainbow shape and I kind of wrap it and twist it, I can kind of make a cone. It's certainly not perfect, but it's like a cone. And then the bottom of the cone would be a circle, okay? But it's still not, exact. I'm certainly not an expert at geometry, but we're going to draw that rainbow shape, but just keep in mind it's close, but it's not exact. But it definitely would not be a triangle. So I got the rainbow shape, and I got the circle. The circle would be the base of the cone. The base of the cone would be a circle, and then this would be what you would wrap around. So if you were going to try to make a three-dimensional cone out of paper, you would have something similar to this. Alright, then I'm going to draw a little arrow, and then we're going to draw our cone. Now the cone starts out very similar to our pyramid. I'm going to draw like I'm about to draw a wide triangle again, but I don't draw the bottom. Now, a lot of people, I'm going to show you, and I've been guilty of this. I do this a lot, in fact, even now sometimes. They do a cone, you draw the top part, and then you do a curve, but you do the curve too much. You make it too curved, and then it looks kind of like an upside down snow cone, okay? It needs to be a slight, kind of subtle curve. Okay? And again, my friend Miss Marks explained it in a really good way, I thought. She explained it like when your parents are taking pictures and they're forcing you to take a picture that you don't want to take, and so you just barely smile, that fake smile where you're just barely turning your mouth up and smiling. So kind of think of like that. So, and turn your paper to the side, and I'm going to make just a very subtle, slight curve. So it's definitely a curve, but it's not extreme. Okay? Now again, if you didn't want it to be transparent, if you want it to be opaque, you could stop here. But if you do want it to be transparent, you would do the same thing on the inside. And then you have your do the cylinder. Now, I love cylinders. Now, a cylinder is more like a rectangle and 2 circles. Okay? So cylinder is anything like my pencil sharpener is technically a cylinder. My coffee mug, which I'm actually using for water right now, is a cylinder. My Coke can is a cylinder. There's the circle. Top's the circle. Bottom's I can't turn it upside down because the Coke was full out. So notice how this is a rectangle, but I could turn it and curve it. And that becomes the cylinder, and then the bottom and the top are circles. Now this circle's way too big, but you get the idea. Okay, so if I was going to build a cylinder out of paper, that's how I would do it. So I'm going to draw a rectangle and a circle. Because the top and the bottom, like see here, the top is a circle, the bottom is a circle, and this, like if I was going to make it, it would be a rectangle. I'm going to do an arrow, and then to make it a cylinder, we're going to draw 2 parallel lines. Now hopefully at this point in the year we all know what parallel lines are. They're lines that run next to each other in the same direction, and they're never going to crisscross. Okay? Then for the bottom, it's going to be a slightly curved line, kind of similar to when we did that cone. So I'm going to just do a slightly curved line here. Same thing here. But you're going to go around as well. And you don't want to make, especially the top, too curved. Now you could make, if you wanted to make this transparent, you could, but you don't have to. And it's up to you. Up a little too high there. There is a cylinder. Okay. Next, a sphere. Alright, so first we're going to draw a circle. Keep in mind it's not going to be perfect because you're not a robot. Right? Draw an arrow. Then draw another circle. And the second circle is the one we're going to make look like a sphere. Okay. But mine's a little small. Erase that. I just want to have enough room to work. Even art teachers make mistakes. Certainly not perfect. No human being is perfect. Alright, so there is my circle. Now, when I think of making a circle looking like a sphere, I always think of the little AT&T symbol. Let me pull that up on my phone. See the little, how they have the little bands of blue and white wrapping around it, and the way they make it kind of go from wide to skinny, and that's what makes it look like a sphere. It makes it look three-dimensional. So that's one way you can do it. Now one thing you can do is that's super easy and quick is you can make a little reflection on it, and that helps it look three-dimensional. The bands, like I can make a line that comes in. See how that looks like a triangle, almost like a triangle wrapping around it. Like the AT&T. And of course you can do some shading. You start from the outside, come in, and you get lighter. So it's going to be darker at the edge. As I come in, and we've talked about shading quite a bit this year. So those are 3 different ways that you can make something look three-dimensional, and you can even combine all of them. So that is how you would make it look like just from a circle to a sphere. Okay. All right, then we are going to do a hexagon. So I am going to draw a little hexagon here. Remember, hexagon has 6 sides. I always remembered hexagon because it has an X in it, and 6 has an X in it. Okay, now kind of like with my other ones, I'm going to draw one hexagon and then a second hexagon. Okay, so I'm going to draw one hexagon. And then a second hexagon. Alright, and then you're going to connect the corners. Now keep in mind, you have a lot more corners in this case, right? So I'm going to connect it here, and here, and here, here, and here, and here. Alright? And then the kids up here at school felt like that was kind of busy. They felt like it was a lot of lines. So keep in mind, you could make it where it is not transparent. Like I could erase where you can see through it. And I can make it opaque. That's the opposite of transparent. And I could color it. And then that way, I still have my hexagonal prism still correctly drawn, but it doesn't look so busy and messy. See the difference that makes? And you could technically do this with just about anything. Let me show you something. You could even do this with a letter or a number. You could do this with your whole name if you wanted. So let's say, for example, I wanted to do an A. So I'm going to write a bubble A, or really a block A, not a bubble A, because it's all about the corners. All about the corners. You could do it with something this round, but it'll be harder because you don't have those corners to use as a guide. Now, if you're new to doing letters like this, you might not be ready for this. Alright, so there's my A. I feel like I need to bring that down a little further. Okay. Alright, then, just like we did with the shapes, I'm going to do another A, lower. And I'm really going to make it low because I want to be able to see what I'm drawing here. It's really kind of busy, it's a lot. Now I have my 2 A's there. Now, keep in mind, like when I did my hexagonal prism here, I'm going to have a ton of lines going back and forth here. So I am not going to make this transparent. I'm going to make it opaque, meaning not see-through. So this is going to be my one in the front. So like right here, I'm going to erase this part of the A, because the one in the front will be the dominant one. Okay, so I'm even going to go over it and make it a little more. Okay, then I'm going to start connecting. I'm going to connect these 2 corners. Alright, and these 2 corners. These 2 corners. And these 2 corners, which I guess you wouldn't even see technically. These 2 corners here, and this would technically be connecting to that. Okay, now I wouldn't be able to see any of this because this would be opaque. So I'm going to erase that. Okay, I wouldn't be able to see that little line, so I'm going to erase that. Now you would be able to see these 2 lines because they're in between. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to get my Sharpie and Sharpie it. Actually, I'm not, but I think you get the idea. And you could do this with just about anything. So, and it's just something that's just practice, 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 you know. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, use, you know, your Google images to look up things, but be careful what you're searching, you know. Adding the word clip art to the end helps make it safer. And also make sure, use Miss Lily or your parents to make sure your search engine is set as safe settings so nothing bad comes up. But like this weekend when I was preparing this lesson, I wanted to see a three-dimensional D. So I can make sure I had something to look at and make sure I was on the right track. And so I just searched three-dimensional letter D. And that way some examples came up that I could look at, and that way I could see, you know, because some of the D's were going that direction and all that stuff. So, you know, just things like that. It's all about practice. Just like soccer, football, playing an instrument, you know, anything. You're not going to be perfect at it the first time you do it. It just takes a practice, and this is one of those things. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope this is something you can use. I know this is something when I was your age, I used this for doodling a lot, like on the margins of my pages and stuff. You know, just when you don't know what to draw when you're bored, this is something good to just sit there and doodle with. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new, and I will talk to you soon.